Hey everybody, Benji here with the question of the week, and this week's question is: how would you describe your childhood bedroom? Um, so I'm gonna describe two of them. I don't really remember the first one. When I say I don't really remember, I don't remember at all the apartment that mom and dad had in KCK when I was little. So we moved to Blue Springs in, oh, so I'd have been 3. Yeah, just turned 3 because we moved on Josh's birthday, like the day he was born. We were moving with like, I remember like Mark Rains and Steve Sutton, Keith. I remember Keith's blue truck and people just moving stuff, to 2220 South 2nd Street. No, that can't be. That must be me remembering moving from South Blue Springs over to the north side of Blue Springs because I would have been, yeah, 3 years old. That I don't remember that. So, mismemoryming. But anyway, how would I describe my childhood bedroom? It would be, so the first one over at 2220 South 2nd Street Terrace, which probably I'm the only one, not probably, I'm the only one that would be able to remember that house because we left in 4th grade. So the summer before that, so I was just done with 3rd grade. So Josh would have been in like kindergarten. So he probably doesn't remember at all. But it was like a split entry. You walk in and stairs to the right go up about 6 stairs and about 5 stairs go down. If I was guessing, we were right at the bottom of a hill. And so my bedroom, what I remember most about it, I remember two things really, is the bunk beds. So the bunk beds were in my room. I don't really remember Josh's room. So I am assuming he had some sort of bed or crib in there. I guess. I don't know. I remember mom and dad's room, right? Because that room had the, so if you like walked up the stairs, to the right was like the living room, to the back right was like the dining room where you would eat. Dining room, it wasn't a dining room, but yeah, dining room. And then a kitchen kind of right in front of you. And then if you went down the hallway, I was to the first, no, the bathroom was the first door to the right. Then my bedroom, Josh is in the back right, and then mom and dad's room with their ensuite bathroom to the left. But I went into their bedroom a lot just because of dad wouldn't allow us to put the Atari that we got at some point on the main TV because he still wanted to watch TV, I assume, in the living room. So we put it on their TV, which was a color TV, color TV that was like, a foot and a half by a foot and a half square and cubed. But the screen was like, 12 inches or something. But it was fabulous. So we'd go in there, sit on the floor, and I'd play Atari. And I'm sure Josh played some, but again, he'd have been young. He'd have been kindergarten. But in my room, I remember the bunk beds, and I remember Josh sleeping in one of the bunk beds. I don't remember him ever sleeping in his own room. He didn't even really sleep in his own room when we went to the north side over at 11th Street. So he would just come sleep. I had a queen size bed in that house, probably because I got mom and dad's old bed, and then they got a water bed. Right, this would have been like, I don't know, 84 maybe 85, and so water beds were all the rage. So they had a water bed. Um, but I remember the bunk beds and sleeping in there, and then I remember the wallpaper. It was like red, white, and blue, and it was like a bunch of fives and a bunch of twos all together. So it was kind of crazy. It was on like one wall, maybe two walls, but I remember that. But I don't remember a ton about that room. What I remember about that house in general is I remember my best buddy was Les down the street, and we kind of did everything together, riding bikes, playing hot box. Across the street was like his older brother, Chad, who was a really good baseball player. Les ended up being a really good baseball player too. Both played varsity level. I don't know what Chad, I think, went and played somewhere else, like college or something. But anyway, so we did that. We had trails down the street, and we would come in, right? That house must not have had central air because we had a big window unit right above the buffet in the dining room. So I remember coming in like me and Les, or me and Ryan O'Shaughnessy, or me and Lou Shepard, some of the friends of mine that were lived further away, but as you got to be first, second grade, you could ride bikes, I don't know, they probably lived, 10 or 15 blocks away, and but just through the neighborhood. And so you could go to their house and they could come to your house. But I remember us coming inside and like it being hot outside in the summer, and like just putting your face in front of the that window unit and it feeling so good. So I remember the backyard had a deck coming off the back, and then stairs went down to the left, and we had a dad made a railroad tie patio. It was the worst patio a person could ever imagine. So imagine using railroad ties and trying to make a patio that no one that you could sit on. I mean, it was a horrible idea. But anyway, um, that's kind of what I remember from that house is not a whole lot, because again, I was third grade when we left, so I had memories of my friends and being out back, but I didn't have any chores at that house ever, so I never had to do anything. Right, I was third grade, so I wasn't cutting grass yet. Um, I remember the Firebird being out in front all the time, and it had wasps in it because it wasn't running. I don't know whatever happened to that Firebird, like when Dad got rid of it or why, but I remember it being there. Then all of a sudden, I remember it being gone, and the Nissan Maxima being there, which is like the first year the Maxima ever came out. And so it must have been early 80s. And mom and dad just loving that car. And I thought it was cool because the car spoke. It would say, like, the door is ajar, which is funny because why did it say the door is ajar? Why didn't it say, you know, I don't know, La Porta or whatever a door is ajar? Or why didn't it say the door is open? Why would it mix English and Spanish? But I do remember it saying the door is ajar. Um, but that was a good car. But I remember loving that house and loving that neighborhood more than anything. There were lots of kids around. There were people up the street, the Bradleys. They had a bunch of girls. Um, Kevin was on up the street. It was a friend of Chad. Um, Chad Smith's, my buddy's older brother. So they would come down. We would play kickball in the street, and we played a lot of hot box down by Les's house, just across the street, going back and forth across the street, like with a tennis ball. And then I remember the bike trails down by the creek at the bottom of our hill, and yeah, I loved it. So my next childhood home would be the main house that I would consider where I grew up, which would be fourth grade all the way through college. Um, so that one, we all had our own room. Joshua's was in the back left. Mine was in the on the right side, downstairs, and then mom and dad's was upstairs. Then eventually Katie's was upstairs next to the loft. There's a loft between mom and dad's and Katie's. Um, and so I remember that room being awesome because I thought it was huge. Because it was big. Like I had a big full desk in it. I had a big bed, a queen size bed. Just kind of had a lot of space. Had a walk-in closet. Had a big laundry basket I could just throw stuff in, and magically mom would come in and do the laundry for a little while. We had to do laundry pretty early. I remember doing laundry. When would that have been? I mean, at least by the time you're 15, but I think it might have been earlier, because I can remember having like my Don Mattingly and Wade Boggs and those King Griffey Jr. Type T-shirts that I had a ton of baseball players, and having to do those laundry myself. But that room was fabulous because it was just it was away from mom and dad, so they were up an entire story. Not that that mattered, but you could have your TV on. Now, keep in mind, your TV went off in I don't know, what was it? It was probably just at 11:30 or 12. It went to static, like craziest thing. Like kids today don't understand that they used to do that. Yeah, it was like news at 10, Johnny Carson at 10:30, David Letterman, the Late Late Show. Um, so 10, 10:30, 11:30, 11:30 to 12:30. So at 12:30, maybe there was something on after Dave Letterman for half an hour. But whatever it was, 12:30 or 1, TV went off. The Star Spangled Banner came on. There's a flag on the TV, and then it went away. And you just had static until, I guess, till 6 in the morning, till Good Morning America or something came on. But anyway, so I had my own TV, had a desk with a chair, also had, at some point I probably had the Atari in there, but very quickly had a Nintendo, the original Nintendo. So spent a lot of time in there playing Super Mario Brothers and Zelda and Tetris, all that kind of stuff. And even mom and dad would come in and play Tetris in my room. But it was big. It was, yeah, there was I would probably go back now and be like, this is a regular size room. It's not a big room. Nowadays, rooms are so big and houses are so big. But I do remember thinking it was big and everybody else saying I was like, it was bigger than like the Words house up the street, way bigger than Vance's next door because he was in the basement. He was in this tiny little room for being the rich family. He was downstairs in the dark. But yeah, that room was big and good. Right across the hall from the bathroom, so I had my own bathroom in essence. Josh, of course, used it too, but so yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I remember about my bedroom. It was big, walk-in closet where you had clothes on both sides. So I had like 2 racks on one side and one tall rack on the other, which I didn't have that many clothes, so it was huge and it was great. Um, 2 windows up front, like 2 big windows, so they had 2 windows each. So it was kind of 4 windows that cranked out. Now Josh, when he ended up taking over my room, that was where he would sneak out and sneak back in. It was through the window, and one night Dad and me and Sarah, my college girlfriend, caught him coming back in. Like, what an idiot. Like, just go out the back deck door. It's like the furthest thing away from mom and dad's, and it was a door. Like climbing up a tree, not that high, but you're climbing up, I don't know, 5 feet, 6 feet up into a tree so that you can get into the window. Um, Josh, what do you have to say? Um, what else is it? So those windows, yeah, I mean, everything was it was great. Dad and mom loved the attic fan. And so I ended up moving my bed. I did have it on the hallway wall. I ended up moving it to the side because at night, in the spring and fall when the attic fan was on, so I'd open up. I did just one window. I didn't have to open up both, but my 2 windows that were by my bed, I would open those up, and the breeze would really, come sucking through from the attic fan, and that felt great because yeah, Dad never liked to turn on the AC. Very stereotypical father who was like, "Who touched the thermostat?" Um, but yeah, no, I remember loving that room. That was great. I loved my whole childhood in that neighborhood, and that's what I would consider as my childhood. Is I had fun, and it felt like a couple years over on South Second Street. And with Les, spent a lot of time over there. Ryan O'Shaughnessy, who I ended up. I mean, we didn't remain like best friends, but still, if I would see that guy today, I would still, we still like get along, and I would see him after college and stuff, and it was good. But even in high school, we're just friends. You just knew each other for so long. But those kind of guys, those started there, and so that was always fun. But my childhood was with Ryan and Jason and Christian and Josh and Vance and Steve and Phil Coulson and Carl Calcara and all those guys. That was my childhood, and that was fun. That was playing sports every day and doing all the fun stuff that comes along with that. So, and in my bedroom was and Mark Wasson, too, up there. He didn't play as many sports, but he probably spent the night at my house more than anybody because the Words didn't really spend the night. We didn't go up there a whole lot. They didn't come down here a ton. But yeah, so you spent a lot of time in your room back then, talking on the phone to my high school girlfriend. Ugh, gosh, that was miserable. But did that in that room. So that's kind of what I got. So hopefully that's good enough. See you guys.